do is wait for 1 or 2 more minutes for construction. We have a number of customers currently using Sage 100 Contractor and Sage 300 CRE on the call, as well as a number of Sage 50 and QuickBooks users who are not clients of ours. So thank you very much for your time today. You can unmute yourself if you choose, or within the interface. We'll stop a couple of times from questions. The idea today is to provide you with a high-level overview of Sage Intacct's construction offering. Again, my name is Patrick Baker. I'm the president of Constructive Solutions, and I'll be co-presenting with Rodney Powell, who's a field sales engineer for Sage Construction and Real Estate Software. So Constructive Solutions, again, many of you are our clients, so we've been in business for 23 years. Our sole focus is the construction industry. We have over 750 clients across Canada, 23 team members, and we're the #1 Sage construction partner in Canada. Over the last couple of years, Sage has been looking to develop one of the assets that they acquired in Sage Intacct and develop a construction edition. So they did a gap analysis and they started building out, identified those specific areas that the Intacct platform needed to build out to meet the needs of construction companies. And over the last 2 years, they've been, leveraging the domain expertise from within the CRE business unit to identify those gaps and taking advantage of Intacct's development team to build out those capabilities within the software. So the product's been available and in the marketplace for a year now. We're still in an early adopter phase, and we're identifying those key verticals within construction where it makes sense for the Intacct platform to be positioned and presented. So Constructive Solutions, we're Vancouver-based. We sell and support all of the Sage construction software platforms. So Sage 100 Contractor, Sage 300 CRE, and we've been certified on the Sage 100 or Sage Intacct construction platform for the last 12 months. So that means we've sent sales resources, sales engineer resources, consulting resources, all through the Intacct enablement program to educate ourselves on the capabilities of the software to become certified. We offer management consulting services, professional services, software development, and work with your group to ensure that the investment you're making in the technology is properly implemented within your group. So Sage Intacct Construction Edition, it's truly Canadian. It's been the #1 choice of businesses across Canada for many years, servicing the Canadian market for more than 25 years. There's 450 Intacct employees within Canada. And again, this is, while Sage Intacct has been in Canada for 25 years and has thousands of customers, my company focuses on the construction and real estate market. And we've recently partnered and expanded our portfolio of products to include Sage Intacct for construction. So I believe it's a real great marriage. Sage Intacct has a proven platform, a modern technology stack, with solid financials, and now they've built up into the construction edition those key features that we expect in a construction edition software. So 20 million pay stubs annually, fully bilingual product, multi-currency, and industry-leading customer support delivered in Canada. Consistently, Intacct is rated #1 in customer satisfaction, on the usability, on the client satisfaction with the solution, and the roadmap and the direction that the product is heading. And it continues to be recognized through 2020. By combining the proven Sage Intacct platform and its industry-leading core financials with Sage's CRE 40+ years of construction domain leadership, we've created a modern cloud-based construction ERP platform to meet the needs of customers like yours. When you start looking at the construction-specific capabilities, we've built budget management, so original estimate to revised estimate, commitment management, which is purchase orders and subcontract control and the compliance around subcontracts and holdback on your AP subcontract. We have full change order management, so potential change orders which are impacting both the estimate and owner change orders that are impacting the contract with the customer. We do AR holdback. So when you set up a job, you set up a contract, and that contract defines the billing relationship with your customer. So progress type contracts, cost plus type contracts have all been built out into the construction edition. In addition, through Sage's Intacct environment ecosystem, they've always provided a core set of financials with a very open technology stack, open APIs that allow for the free flow of information between industry-leading best-of-breed point solutions. Within the Intacct platform in the construction edition, we've continued in that theme and have built out integrations with Procore, which is a collaborative project management platform, TimberScan, which is a full paperless AP and document management suite of software, Salesforce, an industry-leading CRM software, and ADP to meet all of your HR and payroll requirements. So if there aren't any questions at this juncture, given the limited time that we have, I'd like to introduce Rodney, who's a solution engineer with CRE, and let Rodney give us a high-level overview, general navigation within the product, and look at some of the dashboards, and let him speak to the different capabilities within the construction edition.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, Rodney, when I go to look to make you presenter, I'm wondering what name it is that you logged in under. There's two.
It starts with a K, and I was logged in as someone different the other day.
Okay, so there's two of those. So let's see if I can make you the presenter and see if
it's the top one, and I just realized that now.
Did you get the?
Yes, it says I'm now the presenter. See that? Can you see my screen?
Certainly can.
Awesome, thank you so much. We've got through our first snafu, and I don't anticipate any others.
And for those attendees, you can minimize, all the different participants up top by dragging that grid up. You can make your window full screen, and then on the right-hand side, you can hit the plus and minus button to zoom your particular view of what Rodney is presenting. I'm at 80%, and it looks pretty good, but you have full control over the zoom within GoToMeeting. Thanks, Rodney.
Patrick, when I scroll, are you able to see everything? A good amount?
Absolutely, everything's moving just great.
Great, thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you are. I'm on the East Coast, but I am Rodney Powell, a solution consultant with Sage Intacct, and I am the presenter. Today's demo is for Sage Intacct for Construction, and the purpose is to give an overview that shows you how you can run your business with a native cloud accounting solution that was built for construction. And that cloud component is really key. Just so you know, there has never been an on-premise version of Sage Intacct. It was born in the cloud. As Patrick referenced, it comes with open APIs so you can easily integrate with other solutions. And it is the future for Sage as a company in the construction vertical. So we're going to start with some general features, some user experience. We'll talk about multi-entity, look at some dashboards, some transactional data, and then we'll wrap up with reporting. So let's get started. So I'm already logged in on the home page, and the end user, as an end user in Sage Intacct, you can pick the home page you want to see. For me, it's the project dashboard. That home page has menus and dashboards and reports that give me access to all the information that is relevant to my job. So this home page, that starting page, this is your launch pad into the rich functionality of Sage Intacct for Construction. So as you can see, you're looking at a browser. That's because Sage Intacct is browser-based, and that's a good thing, right? Because we all know how to use a browser. So if you have a multi-generational workforce, the baby boomers, the millennials, they all understand how to use the browser. There's no training. That browser-based functionality that we're used to in our personal browsing experience has been brought over to Sage Intacct. So we have, intuitive icons that will take you other places. We have drop-down menus where you can make, further selections. There are hyperlinks that can drill down to information or open up a new screen. We also have a Google type search, right? So if you need to search for something inside Intacct, that, a business function or some specific information, you can do that as well. You can also work in more than one tab. So if you're like me, if you're a serial tabber and you may have 5 or 10 tabs open at one time, you can perform work within the application and in different functions across the various tabs. Also, in the spirit of that whole, traditional browser experience, we have things like favorites and bookmarks. And there's a slight distinction in Intacct for that, but we'll talk about that. If I come to my left and click on the star, these are my favorites. This is my favorite menu. And what I can do here is I can actually create favorites for reports, right? Or business functions that I use over and over. So if I come and click the check mark next to my general journal, it will actually launch me into the screen, where I can do and prepare a journal entry. And oh, by the way, if I come to a screen and I'm really not sure what to do, in Sage Intacct, help is just a click away, right? So by clicking on the help button, I can get context-sensitive help that can give me help about the specific page where I'm at. So in this instance, I'm on a journal entry. I want to understand how to create a journal entry, and the help menu can actually walk me through that. So, if I'm in a journal entry, if my goal is to, record my over and under or assign some direct cost to a job, Sage Intacct gives me the tools to do that by way of the journal entry and a help menu that can walk me through that if it's not something I'm familiar with. So on the left, we have our favorites. On our right, we have the bookmark. And the difference is, whereas the favorites is for like a function or report, the bookmark is actually for a record, right? So in our story today, let's say I'm working on a job estimate, right? I'm working on a job estimate and something's come up. It's time for me to join, a Zoom meeting, or we're all working from home. So maybe, the kids and the dogs are creating chaos and I have to go away and handle something. I can actually bookmark that page, do what I have to do, and then come back at a later time, right? Access that record, and continue with what I'm doing. So it's a very convenient way to get you back to where you were in the system. And actually, since we're talking about a job estimate, this is probably a good place to point out the desktop integration tools. So let me open my template here. Sage Intacct out of the box provides templates that allow you to upload data into the system. There's certainly one for job estimates. So it has all the columns and descriptions. It tells you, what you need, which ones are required. So you can have this templated spreadsheet. You can put in your cost codes and dollar amounts. And then in my story, I would have, uploaded the estimate into the system, been working on that, got called away for some reason, did a bookmark, and then came back and continued to where I'm going. So that's just kind of some real simple basics. If you want to access the broader functionality in the system, you can navigate using a menu. So there are menus and submenus that you can go and access the various functions in the system. What I can see, though, with these menus and how I navigate is based upon security. So the security in Sage Intacct is role-based, right? And so because I'm logged in as a super user, I can see many menus and access all the functions. But again, that's based on my user setup and roles. So let's actually, since I'm here on the menu, let's take a look at that. I'll click on users, and I'll select a user. Select Bob today. So, I get some basic user information. I can take that user and assign them to a role. In a separate place, what I'll do is I will actually assign all the permissions for that role. I can assign the permissions where this person can go in the software, the entities that they can access, which we'll talk about in a minute, any departments or territories. All that user and role-based security is set up in the system. There's also another way that you can navigate the broader functionality in the system, and that's with something called a process map. So if I just come here and I'm going to go to accounts payable and click overview, right? what you're seeing here is a process map that can visually walk you through the steps that you have to do. These process maps are a navigational tool that give the end user a clear view of whatever tasks have to be accomplished. So this, in my opinion, makes entering information and processing tasks intuitive. So just like if you have, let's say, you know, a smartphone or a tablet with icons that you click on to launch you into a screen, that's the same concept here, okay? So that's a quick navigation overview. We kind of talked about the menu screen, the favorites, the bookmarks, you know, some basic icons, the process maps. That's kind of how you get around the look and feel navigation, all simple, browser-based. And because of that ease of use, you know, it, in my opinion, promotes user adoption, which is directly tied to your return on investment as an end user. So let's take a moment and talk about how we set up things in the system, right? So we have, within Sage Intacct, there's a unified multi-entity architecture that allows you to model your organization inside the system. So I'm actually here on the top level, but when I click on this, right, I can see all the entities that are in my various structure. Again, I'm a super user, so I can see everything, but that same security that controls my menu access also controls the entities that I can access as well, and the transactions that I can process within those entities. Because we are we support a multi-entity structure, we also support consolidations and intercompany accounting. So let's just take a moment. And so if the different companies within your consolidated entity want to do business with each other, we actually fully support that intercompany accounting. So all the due-tos and the due-froms can be recorded automatically. That consolidation can happen the same way. So the screen you're looking at now, you will set up these relationships between the various companies, and let's say company A records a charge for company B, you know, the AP and AR mapping and setup will happen automatically, okay? So no matter how complex your organization is, we can capture that organizational complexity and process the transactions accordingly. So let's take a moment and hop over to our dashboard, because this is really where the rubber meets the road in Sage Intacct, in my opinion, because dashboards, not only are they visually stimulating, but they're also just an important part of the solution. So when I reference Sage Intacct, there's something I like to say. You're never in the dark with the Sage Intacct solution. And that's because of what you're seeing right here, right? Because of the dashboarding functionality that comes out of the box. So these dashboards, they are completely personalized screens. They have all the relevant reports and performance cards and graphs if you need to track and analyze your business. So when I say never in the dark, I mean never in the dark about the individual projects and also the business as a whole. And you can see what I mean as I move around the dashboard. You know, across the top, we have some performance cards. So you can provide people in your organization quick insight into things that matter, right? So, you know, your contract total, your total billings, the number of jobs, your profit margin, all that is right here at the top, you know, and easy to see and navigate. And really, there's actually drill downs. These behind the scenes, these performance cards are really just reports that are visualizations and trends of the data, right? So that profit margin, you know, I can click on that, I can see the report, you know, how I take the revenue and, you know, all the various components of costs that will actually get me to calculate my profits margin. There are a couple other reports and things on the dashboard I want to point out, specifically project overview reports, things like project by profitability. There's some cost information. So there are cost overview reports. You can cost to complete. So these reports, you can jump them out to a whole new tab, right? Look at my cost overview report. So it allows me to do maybe some high-level forecasting. So I have my job, I have the cost codes, I know my estimates. You know, once I get in my cost to complete and compare to my actual cost, I can see my expected cost to complete and get my over under. So these reports, they're all fueled by the transactions in the system. So those transactional components, once they're completed and processed, it gives you the data that you see right here. I want to point out though that this information is in real time. So what that means is that once you post a transaction, the effect of that transaction is recorded immediately onto the dashboard. In addition to being real time, this is just standard functionality. So every Sage Intacct customer gets this. It's not an add-on. There are no limits to the number of dashboards you can have. When you get Sage Intacct, we give you this capability because we know that it is powerful and can be transformational to your business. So if I scroll up to the top, I'm going to point out that there's some filters that I have that I can, filter the data and see some more specific information. So these dashboards can be data effective. So I can see at a point in time, it's going to default to today, but I can go back in time if I want to. I can also get a snapshot of things by location, by job, by customer. So if I go ahead and just look at the various jobs, I'll look at my hotel group. I'll click apply. It's going to change all the information on the dashboard, and it's going to give me the relevant information about this aspect of your business. So the dashboards and the related reports allow you to, get insight into your business, as a whole, and also the various components. Now that slicing and dicing and filtering is powered by something called dimensional accounting. So what is that? Let's talk about that. So let's take a minute and we'll just navigate to dimensions. So what are dimensions? So dimensions and dimensional accounting, it's a couple things. It's a way that you can track data that allows your users to slice and dice financial information according to your business needs. It's a way you can also streamline your chart of accounts and tag the various transactions in the system with the components that are relevant to your organization. There are standard dimensions out of the box, right? Things like class, customer, department. You can create user-defined dimensions. There are also some industry-specific dimensions. So in the construction world, there are dimensions that you get when you get Sage Intacct for construction, for jobs, for cost code, for cost types. So these dimensions, right, together with your chart of accounts, this is how we process transactions in the system. So what you'll do is you would create your individual account numbers, you would separately define those dimensions, and then together your account number and your dimensions, they power the transactional activity inside the system. Okay, so all of the transactions in Intacct are enriched with the various dimensional elements of the solution. So let me just jump back to my dashboard really quickly. Let me come over to my project overview report. I'm going to pop it out again to make it large. So I'm going to look at an overview for my projects. And is this the one I want? Nope, that's not the one I want. Give me a second. I need to. One moment, please. Now I can pop out. So about project overview report, I can gain insight into for these projects, the contract, the budget, the commitments, etc. I'm going to just focus on one here for electric, and I'm looking at, kind of the total billings, the cost percentage, and I'm drawn to the cost number. Let me click on that. I can certainly have drill down capabilities from the actual dashboard, so I can drill down to different reports and views. I'm going to come and look at a bill that's been charged to this particular account. And when I do that, a couple steps, I'll see the journal entry and then jump to the actual bill. So just think about what I just did from my dashboard. I've drilled down to the actual transaction document to get information. So here, this is an AP bill, right? So we see all the things that we expect to see, the vendor, who we pay, the due date. This is actually past due. There can be some things on your dashboard to draw attention to that. There are approvals within the system, so approvals can happen if we need to. We have some attachments. We'll come back and talk about that in a bit. But here is actually the line item, right, where everything is recorded. And you see those dimensional elements that I spoke about, the job, the cost code, the cost type. This accounts payable bill has been enriched with those data elements. And that's the reason why I can slice and dice and view and report things from my dashboard, because of the way that we've actually recorded transactions. So we have the actual account number and all the other dimensional elements that go along with it. How did those things get on this accounts payable bill? Well, actually, when we set up the job, right, at the job record, you know, when you create jobs within the system, you're going to add all that information. You know, there's job information, there's resource pricing, job summary, all of those dimensional elements will actually start when you create the job. So once you run transactions against the job, you do billings, you pay people, all that information is really going to default and roll down actually to the transaction, and again, support and give you all of that rich functional reporting with the dimensions and the slicing and dicing that goes along with that. So let's just scroll down and point out a few things. If I get to the bottom, you'll see there's some posts or comments down here in reference to the invoice. This is really the social media component that comes along with Sage Intacct that facilitates how you can communicate and manage your business process. So if you look at this particular one, you know, if I go back to approval, there was no approval done on this invoice, right? And that's because if you scroll down, he's saying, hey, we need an interim lien waiver. There's no lien waiver for this, you know, particular invoice. When I looked at my attachments, you know, we saw, well, there's a subcontract, there's the actual invoice. I don't have a lien waiver. So I use something called Intacct Collaborate. I sent a message to the appropriate person that says, hey, I need a lien waiver. And what they do, in that same social media interaction, they were able to post and reply and say, oh, look, here's the lien waiver. It's attached, you know, to the document. You know, let's go forward, you know, with that approval. So Intacct Collaborate is a way for you to interact with the people inside using the software to address, you know, non-routine transactions in the system. So what does that mean? I didn't have to pick up the phone or call someone right here on the document. I was able to post a comment, that person was alerted, and we can interact going that way.
Hey, Rodney, it's Patrick
Yes.
here. Hey, we're
Yes.
approaching the bottom of the hour. If you have a couple more minutes to sort of highlight a few other features that you'd like to touch on.
I am coming into the home stretch. You actually read my mind.
Okay.
So I'm going to wrap up and just talk about reporting. So there's reporting by way of the dashboards, but there are also standard reports and delivered reports within Sage Intacct. Reporting is so important in Intacct that we have something called a report center. And within that report center, we have, you know, numerous reports that come out of the box. So there are reports that relate to the various subledgers, you know, for accounts payable or receivables or projects. We also have numerous standard financial reports that come out of the box. So again, that reporting, you're never in the dark with Sage Intacct. The multiple types of financial reports that are delivered out of the system as a standard. Let me just point to one right here. Let's go to profit and loss statement. So once you know, on day one, you can have, you know, subledger reports, things like vendor list and other types of agings, as well as financial reports that can summarize all the data. The reporting, same as the dashboards, there's drill downs, there's filters, etc. So you can keep track. You know, to me, the financial reports are really your report card kind of for the period, the month, the quarter, the year. We delivered so many of those standard out of the box that you can, you know, change their layout and how they're processed to meet your business needs. So I know that was kind of fast and furious, but my goal today was to just give you a look and feel and a taste of Sage Intacct for construction, how to navigate some of the transaction processing, the power of dimensions, and the standard financial reporting that goes along with that. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Rodney. Appreciate it. Great presentation. Do we want to open it up to questions? I mean, I've got a couple more slides that I wanted to cover off. We only asked for 30 minutes of your time to provide you with a high-level overview, which I think we've done, giving you a look and feel of Sage Intacct and its construction capabilities. Are there any questions, either through chat or to open up your mic and maybe ask any questions that you have?
Hi there. My name is Justine. I work for a civil construction company. I was just interested in the estimating, if you don't mind just touching on the abilities in that regard, not in too much detail, but just kind of a quick overview.
So, Patrick, is that you or me?
No, go ahead, please, if you want to address it.
So the estimating is certainly a functionality out of the box. As I said, you can use a template, you can create the estimates, you can upload, you can have certainly more than one estimate. So your original estimate that goes along with the contract, if you make some modifications, you can keep track of all those, and you can do all of your billings and things from the actual estimates.
Are you able to just show me the screenshot, like on the screen there, what it would look like, just quickly?
Yes, let me see.
Thank you.
Here we go. Job estimates. Let me see what I have here. Yeah, I'm in a new environment, so this data I'm not familiar with. So here are our estimates. So the estimate, the job information, right? And your cost codes, your cost types, your items, your amounts. This is actually the form that is done on, but as I said, you can, if you're using spreadsheets to do that, you can upload as well.
Hey, Brian, did you want to comment on estimating within Intacct and Sage's estimating in the roadmap there? Not sure if Brian's still
I just had to unmute there. I had a couple of mutes on there. Yeah, so great question. So from the actual estimating standpoint and the ability to create estimates and do takeoffs and things like that, we have a dedicated product called Sage Estimating. And it's a SQL database driven product. If you haven't looked at it, it's definitely worth looking at. It's the industry leading estimating product for construction. We're in the process right now of creating an integration with Intacct. So today you could very easily create a CSV export out of Sage Estimating, line up the right column headers, and then bring it in as a job estimate into Sage Intacct. And then going forward, we'll have a way to essentially just tie it in with like a bridge to be able to migrate those two together. But that that pre-construction piece is going to be key bringing into Sage Intacct. But Sage Intacct is really just, you consider it a incredibly powerful financial management engine, as Rodney mentioned, that's browser based, cloud native, that has incredible APIs that can tap into all kinds of different solutions and point solutions, including estimating and things like service and Procore and a number of integrations down the road. Intacct has a marketplace of probably 300 to 400 marketplace partners with integrations ready to go with Intacct right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was another question about timesheet, how are timesheets loaded? So Intacct itself doesn't have a native Canadian payroll. It integrates with industry standard solutions like ADP and Ceridian. So when we're looking at time capture, we're going to use the front end time capture that's associated with those payroll solutions. So to capture the time, take that time through an approval process, and then bring in those costs into Intacct. And then cost reporting, can you take a report out to Excel, and can it be amended and imported back into Sage? Brian or Rodney, do you want to field?
Rodney, you can speak to it. I'll keep me honest, but absolutely, yeah, you can. It's very easy to export data in and out of the system, and there's also some additional functionality. We've got something called the Interactive Custom Report Writer, which looks like a really powerful pivot tool within Sage Intacct. So it's an advanced functionality that it kind of goes hand in hand with construction. And then we also have a brand new subscription. So the way Intacct works, and Rodney outlined it, there's subscription options that you can add into the core financials. There's a new business intelligence visualization tool as well that was just announced. There's also a budgeting and planning module that's really powerful. So there's just a huge ecosystem of functionality around Sage Intacct, being a kind of a Gartner Magic Quadrant, best of breed AI CPA preferred financial management engine that, we're building out construction specific functionality into. So our construction customers get to take advantage of all that additional functionality.
Hi, this is Eric Dubois from Activo. You mentioned integration with payroll system, and I believe you mentioned ADP. How deep is that integration? Like, if I create a ticket in your system now, can a technician enter his time and choose that ticket or project like immediately in ADP? Or is there some batch transfer or creation that needs to happen?
Again, Eric, we'll need to address that question offline. I'm not sure the particulars at this juncture myself, so I'll need to do a little bit of research. The time capture, I'm not sure if it's your ADP. Brian, does Intacct have a time capture where they can take time and code that time to a project and a cost code, and then that feeds ADP?
So there is a timesheets product, or built-in timesheets within the project accounting within Sage Intacct. How it flows through to the jobs, that dimension, that job cost dimension, as well as to ADP. I'm a sales guy, so I can't get into that detail, but we can definitely schedule a follow-up with you and kind of walk you through what that would look like, because ADP does have a very powerful integration with Sage Intacct. They're one of our top payroll partners. And then now it's just a matter of tapping into all the additional dimensions coming with construction and making sure all that flows through.
Eric, to your question, I think if Brian mentioned that there's a time capture capability natively within Sage Intacct, typically that would be allow you to capture time, code it to a job, code it to a cost code, the dimensions that Brian was mentioning, and then take that time and feed it to ADP so your employees get paid. Whether or not there's a burden rate table within Intacct that looks to those hours and an approximate cost of that employee and then brings that burden cost onto the job, we'll need to get back to you on. Any other questions?
In terms of the equipment module, right now, I guess we're just, we enter in our equipment hours and everything, and it allocates those costs to the job. Was that similar, and is it carried over? We use Sage 100 Contractor. Would it be similar to that, or how does that look and work?
Yeah, so Sage Intacct, while there's been a couple of years of development, bringing it up and creating the features that are required for construction, they have target audiences in the initial early adopter phase. And so we're moving through that early adopter phase, but there is not an equipment module, an equipment cost module native within Intacct. So we'd need to look to an integrated partner where we're setting up those pieces of equipment, we're capturing time and bringing costs back into Intacct. And that equipment module would probably have some resource allocation, and it would also probably have an equipment maintenance capability within it. And again, so as we move to more of a connected world and we have an open architecture, an open technology stack, your ERP solution will do less. It's about finding the point solutions that make the most sense to meet your requirements in the field and specifically for equipment that are going to align better to your operational requirements and will integrate back to Intacct where the appropriate level of information, so whether it's jobs and cost codes flowing from Intacct out to the equipment module, you're doing the capture out there, we're managing the costs and then bringing those costs back into the project. That's the nature of connected cloud, and that's where technology is going. Before, the legacy-based systems on the older technology, because they didn't have any interoperability capabilities, they had to do everything. And they had very deep feature sets, but very limited ability to communicate with any other system. So as we look to Sage Intacct in a more modern technology stack, there's a paradigm shift that's going on. And that paradigm shift is that you have a core ERP that's capable and aligned to the construction industry, but it doesn't do all the specific requirements. And payroll is one of those, equipment costs is going to be one of those, work order management is not a part of the core. But when we look at Intacct and where it fits today, the construction edition, we're looking at developers. We're looking at general contractors. We're looking at specialty contractors who focus on new construction. These are the target audiences that we're looking to position Intacct in its as we bring it into the market to address the needs of construction companies. Hopefully that gives some context to where we are. You know, Sage Intacct is committed to they have the largest number of construction, the CRE business unit within Sage has the largest number of construction companies as software users in North America. A number of these customers have seen a great return on their investment in Sage 100 Contractor and Sage 300 CRE and are looking to future-proof their business. So Sage is all about the power of choice and timing. As you consider, the products that you're on today as a Sage customer aren't going anywhere. If you're looking to get that anywhere, anytime access to your data, and if you're looking to modernize and future-proof your business with a more modern technology stack, Intacct is that option over the mid to long term. So we already have clients that have in the developer and general contractor space that have acquired Intacct, and we're working with them through the implementations. I would think that there's over 100 customers in North America that many of which are live and many of which are in their implementation stage. So that's where we're at with Sage Intacct. Today was about educating you, our clients, and those customers who don't have an existing relationship with Constructive Solutions, letting you know about who we are and the newest addition to our portfolio of products to serve the construction industry. So just as a wrap up, I think we'll follow up with you in the next few days to get your feedback on the presentation, to better understand your interest and timeline. This is a journey, and we're here to educate you on what your options are as your business changes and as industry changes. But we're willing and able to develop a plan to support you in your investigation, which would be doing more of a detailed discovery on the specifics of your company. We could look at shaping out the investment. This is a software as a service on a quarterly or an annual subscription. And if appropriate and the timing makes sense, to schedule a more detailed demonstration with you and your team. So in closing, I'd just like to thank you all, for your time today, for your interest in Sage Intacct, for your interest in Constructive Solutions, and for those clients on the call for your continued business. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time
Thank you.
today, everybody.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.